Hi, I'm Dr. Jim Hoven, your host of the Difference Makers podcast. This is a place where people come together that are making a difference for those who want to make a difference. And that's you. We're bringing thought leaders together in a sense of fusion where ideas and concepts and personalities are all driven together into one place at one time. And this is no different. In this episode, you're going to see cool things from cool people making a difference.
Hello and welcome to the Difference Makers podcast. My name is Bradford Katie and I'm filling in today for Dr. Hoven. Today, I've got 3 tips for you, or 3 things that I want to share from my experience about leadership learning and effectiveness of who you're teaching and what you're teaching your burgeoning leaders in your company. Whether you're a CEO, an entrepreneur, or someone that's just interested in starting your leadership journey, I want to share with you what Dr. Hoven has taught me. Now, Dr. Hoven is obviously a big part of the Ramos Law team that I am a part of as well, and he's not the only one that's been teaching me these lessons, but there's 3 things that I wanted to pull out of what I've learned so far and share with you. I think that I have a unique perspective being on the receiving end of a lot of the leadership material that you've maybe absorbed in this media source or others, and I wanted to just give you a little bit of how I felt or what I've learned when it comes to developing as a leader in a growing company, right? This company, I started with Ramos Law about 2 years ago. The company was about 60, 75 people large, and we're nearing 200 now. And I've gained a lot of experience and learned a lot about becoming a leader in a growing and changing office environment. And I want to give you all kind of my experience of what that felt like. So the 3 points that I want to go over today are first, communication, coaching, and development. Coaching and development is something that is, of course, needed as a leader and something you're doing for somebody who's growing into a leadership role. But I have a different perspective about how I learned this from Dr. Hoven. I'm going to talk to you guys about that today. Additionally, I want to talk to you about effective communication. Now, I know you've heard this many, many times, as effective communication is the basis and is an extremely important piece of any business, no matter how large, how small, or how you want to run. Communication is key. But giving you a little bit of perspective of what I learned and some of the differences that I took away from the way Ramos Law taught me. And then finally, I want to talk to you a little bit about mentorship and how you can connect people that you want to train to become the leaders of the future of your business and how to make sure that they're getting those mentorship opportunities. Wrap up with a couple examples and then give you guys something to chew on before our next episode. So let's move into point number 1. First thing that I want to talk about is I want to focus on this concept of coaching and development. Coaching and development, of course, we've heard it a million times. You got to make sure that you're giving the plant the water, right? You got to give that plant an opportunity to grow on something. Give it a trellis. Give it the sunlight it needs. Give it the water it's looking for. And a lot of times, if you've got somebody like me in your company who is learning to lead, who is ambitious and excited, wants to be there, is excited to take on more responsibility, and just has a lot of drive, you want to make sure that that individual is focusing on coaching and development. But it's been my experience that shifting my focus away from myself, and instead of asking myself, what's the way that I can become the best version of me, right? How can I take in more of this coaching and development for myself? How do I become better? And instead focusing on how can I make the people around me better? This is a big shift for me, even recently. Dr. Hoven has helped me identify opportunities to say, hey, instead of thinking about ways that you can be better, instead of thinking about ways that you can improve yourself, look for opportunities to develop the people that are nearby you. You have the ability to make an impact to the people that are nearest to you first. And if you think about that kind of sphere of influence and allow it to grow outwards, the people that you should be impacting are going to be the ones closest to you. Obviously, of course, we can only work on ourselves at 100%, but we want to do everything we can to influence the people nearby. I've learned that by focusing on the people that are nearest to me and helping develop and coach the people that I speak with every day, the folks that I work with as my peers, if I can do everything in my power to help coach and develop them, I'm actually learning more than if I were to turn myself inward and say, okay, what can I do to sort out what I've got going on the inside, right? And I think that although the drive for coaching and development is something that if you identify it in one of your staff members as somebody that you want to bring up as a burgeoning leader, right? If that person's in your leadership bullpen, keep them driven, keep them ambitious, right? Allow them to take that food and feed that energeticness that they have. But remind somebody that may be on that similar path or the similar path where I was, remind them that it's not necessarily always about your development. And that by focusing on nearby folks or the peers in your department, you can actually get a lot of learning about the best way to operate as a leader, as an individual, in whatever business structure that you might have. It's been an interesting course of learning, and this is something that's really stuck with me because I love to be able to look for ways to improve. I'm constantly reviewing my own work and saying, how can I make this better? What do I need to do differently? How can I be? And all of those statements start pointed at me, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you've got a leader that you want to guide in the right direction, help them look for opportunities or help them find opportunities to develop those that are near me. As soon as I made that click with Dr. Hovind, it unlocked a whole new chapter of my development of what I could do to make sure others are better at what they do. Let's move on to the next one. The second point is something that I feel as though I came to this position at Ramos Law with a lot of experience. I have a lot of communication experience and a communications background. I was a big speech and debate kid in high school. Public speaking has always been something that I enjoy. I love standing up and being the center of attention. My parents will tell you. But that level of communication and being able to effectively get your point across is important, but is only the first level of the kind of communication that's expected for business excellence. You need to be able to effectively communicate whatever it is that you're trying to get other people to understand, right? Imagine a PowerPoint that's in a language that nobody in your boardroom understands. It's ineffective. It doesn't work, right? But there's more to business communication than just saying, hey, here's the important details. Here's how we do what we do. Here's our objective. Again, you have to be excellent at that stuff, and you have to be sometimes persuasive, sometimes convincing, and sometimes just matter of fact. But there's an additional level to it. And the two things that Dr. Hovind's helped uncover for me is not only do you need to be an effective communicator with your words and the knowledge base and the information that you're getting across, but there's a level of emotional connection that needs to occur as well. This was a really big blind spot for me. And up until a couple of months ago, I didn't realize how much of that I was missing. And I think that the driven nature that I have, and I'm always interested in improving. I'm looking for, the next data point, the next thing to sink my teeth into, the next, journal to review, and how many pages of this can I read all at once? That's all really important. But there has to be a level of emotional connection that goes with it. And, one of the things that helped me understand this was there was a fellow employee that I worked with that had gone through a significant loss in their family. And when that person returned back to work, I was frustrated because I didn't understand why I couldn't connect with this person like I used to be able to, right? It used to be a really easy transfer of information. I need you to point A, point B, point C, and I will do point X, point Y, and point Z. And we had this sort of not cold and steely, but a sort of informational exchange kind of communication. And it was really easy. And there's something I felt like I excelled at. This other person excelled at as well. But after this emotionally tumultuous occurrence, it became a little bit more difficult for me to have a comfortable and connective conversation on the level of informational exchange. And I realized after going over this experience with Dr. Hovind that I was missing the whole second half. And half is probably an underestimation. The reality of communication is that there's more to it than just the informational exchange that we need to do. There's an emotional connection that needs to occur. And that emotional connection is what was missing as I was speaking with, as I was working with this peer, right, this coworker. Once I uncovered this understanding that I needed to dig a little bit deeper and find a softness and an emotional connection with this person, it changed my experience and it changed the way that I communicate with everybody. And I learned a lot from that. And I was excited that Dr. Hovind was able to connect that, help me connect those dots, because that was something that I think that without a little bit of prodding or a little bit of, without a guide to move me through that path, right? Without a guide to move me through that forest and along the right path, I would have missed that. And I think that that level of development or that level of encouragement from the leadership teams at Ramos Law helped me dive into or sink into that emotional availability that you want to have with the people that you work with. It absolutely increases your ability to communicate effectively and gives you a level of understanding of those other people that you wouldn't have had if you maintain just a informational exchange style of relationship. Taking things a step further than that even, I've been able to develop a sense of trust and understanding with a lot of the same individuals I would consider peers at this firm. That trust and development of understanding, the empathetic trust, right? Connection is something that I undervalued as well. There's a big challenge for our culture at Ramos Law. And that big challenge that we've been tackling over the last 18 months is the ability to maintain a business culture through remote locations. It's not easy. When you've got 50 or so people that all come to the same office, that all share the same coffee maker and microwave, that all put their lunches in the fridge, it's real easy to find opportunities to communicate and connect. Communication, connection, and even that additional level that I was talking about, that emotional connection, it's easy to find when you're physically close to somebody. Well, when we started to grow, and a little bit after I started to join, about 6 months into my employment, I recognized that hey, there's a lot of different people that are in a lot of different states, a lot of different countries, or even just down the street at a couple different offices. How do we make sure that the trust and the empathy that we understand what's going on in each other's lives, and we trust each other to make sure things get done in a timely fashion or appropriately? How do we build that? And although the answer changes depending on the kind of business culture that you want to build at your business, what we found is that understanding and finding opportunities to connect on this third level and build that trust changed our ability to build this same business culture to the point where there are folks that live all over the place that have this feeling of working with Ramos Law that I think is incredible. Dr. Hoven opened up an opportunity for me to say, hey, how can you be trustworthy for these other people, right? If you're going to supervise or you're going to lead, how can you lead people that you don't even get to see every day, that sometimes you don't even see at all throughout the day? Maybe a video call every few days, but how do you build the trust to make sure that they understand that you have their best interests in mind? And the answer comes down to those first two levels of communication, understanding how to communicate effectively with information, how to connect appropriately with emotions, and allowing that level of empathy to be added to the communication that you're doing. And I think that ultimately is what helped me build trust with some of those other team members that, are miles and miles away. This brings us to our third point. The third thing that I want to cover with you guys today is seeking mentorship. I was so excited to start the leadership program with Dr. Hoven. It's something that I was looking forward to basically since I started, right? As soon as I found out that there's an opportunity for me to learn from someone who is as good or as great as Dr. Hoven is at what he does, I wanted to snap up that opportunity right away. And so when I say seek mentorship, that may be the first thing you're thinking of. I want you to shift your focus a little bit away from the business itself. I'm able to get this opportunity with Dr. Hoven. I'm super excited. We meet frequently, we talk all the time, and he shows me these sorts of things like I've been talking about so far. But then additionally, he's helping me find and he's helping me connect with mentorship opportunities outside of the business, right? There are places where I can seek mentorship and I can find opportunities to flex or to grow the muscles that I've kind of been awakened in me for leadership purposes in other areas, right? Whether that be a charitable organization or, even if it's just helping somebody's aunt move their furniture out or something like that. There are opportunities where you can find mentorship for leaders in your company outside of the business, and connecting them with those appropriate opportunities that match your business values is a great way to get them to grow even further, whether that be off the clock or on, or however you want to, divvy that up. But that's something that Dr. Hoven helped me with, and something that I found a lot of value in, is going somewhere where I could learn additional lessons or I could be mentored additionally outside of what Ramos Law was able to build. Seeking mentorship doesn't always mean that the individual that's coming out of this leadership bullpen is seeking mentorship from you specifically. You want to encourage them to do that, and you want to be able to have them find opportunities outside of your own leadership program, but inside your business, to get the mentorship that they're looking for. But don't limit yourself to just the four walls of the office that you're in, or the quote unquote four walls that incorporates, your business. If there are opportunities for these new young leaders to be able to be connected with other mentors that you trust outside of your business, take those opportunities. I've been given a couple of those opportunities and they've been extremely helpful for my development. It's given me a picture, a snapshot of the ways that other businesses do things, the ways that other entities run, right? It doesn't have to necessarily be another business. It can be another organization, maybe something that's totally outside of where you would normally operate. The first thing that comes to my mind is an opportunity I got with a youth soccer team. I'm not even a soccer fan, but being able to volunteer my time and work with those kids made a big impact on my life. And I got some mentorship from the people that lead that organization. And that's a big deal. And that's value that you can find for your young leaders outside of your business that, maybe was missed in the first few passes. Look for those opportunities and see what else that you can find to give the people that have the drive to learn an ability to do so outside of just what you do as a business. In conclusion, I want to leave you with one example of a leadership struggle or leadership challenge that I was able to overcome with Dr. Hoven. I was given the responsibility to lead a group of team members. And I was told, hey, here's the objective. Here's what needs to happen. I need you to make sure that this is taken care of. Here's your timeline. And I started working on the project. I got to a point in the project where I realized I needed to make a decision that I didn't feel as though I had the level of responsibility or appropriate power or, however you want to say that. I didn't feel like it was my place to make that decision. And even though I was given the responsibility to get the completed product, and I was asked to have that product delivered on time, there was a process inside of getting that project to completion that I felt like I wasn't able to do. And I flipped over backwards and just went on and just dug through as many different other opportunities or other solutions that I could find until I really just felt like there was nothing else that I could do other than to just try to make this decision that I didn't feel like I was supposed to make. So I came to Dr. Hoven and I said, hey, I've been struggling with this for the last 10 days. I can't figure out a way that I can make this happen without making this decision. Dr. Hoven kind of looked at me funny and goes, well, yeah, man, that was inside the scope of what we asked you to do. So of course we gave you that responsibility for that. And this was a flashpoint for me and for both of us, actually, when we realized that our communication was not effective enough, right? We didn't have enough of that empathetic trust or emotional intelligence to recognize that what I was being asked to do, I didn't feel like I had the ability to. And what he was asking me to do, he felt like I should understood, everything inside that fence is for you to play with. And so when we came to this point, we realized that sometimes as you enter into these new opportunities for leadership, because this was new for me, this sort of a project was not something I had been able to do before. It was the first time I'd been asked to take on something of that magnitude. When you come to these new adventures that you get to go on with these young leaders out of the bullpen, communication about what's expected, but also the tools that they get to use is an important piece of beginning that journey. Hey, we're going to go on an adventure. Here are the tools we're going to use while we're doing it. And here are some things that you might encounter that you're going to have to make a tough decision on, and it's going to be your decision to take responsibility for. When Dr. Hoven and I came to that understanding, it was a really big moment for me. And I'd encourage you, if you have young leaders in your business, organization, etc., look for those opportunities to help them go on some of their first adventures and help them understand the importance and the magnitude of what they're doing, but also the responsibility for the decisions that they get to make. I was able to do something like this, and I found it to be a huge growing opportunity for me, and I'd encourage you to look for those same opportunities in young leaders in your organization as well. Now, as we wrap this up, I want to say that I've had a ton of fun doing this. I love doing these sort of things. I think it's really cool that Dr. Hoven asks me to kind of take something like this up. But I want to ask you, did you enjoy what you saw today? Is this something that you'd want to see more of? Do you want to hear my lowly opinion on some other subject matter that you might think is interesting? Is there a way that I can help your business grow or your perspective shift, or can I add anything to your conversations? If the answer to any of that is yes, drop us a 5-star review, jump down in the comments section and say something. I would love to come back and share more of my experiences as a growing leader at Ramos Law. I sincerely hope you've enjoyed our conversation today. Your feedback is incredibly valuable for our podcast. Leave us a 5-star review, check the show notes for all of the links to our Instagram, Facebook, and other social media accounts, and we'll see you next time on the Difference Makers Podcast.